Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Speak Smart podcast. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something pretty cool.
Okay.
Using movies to learn English.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people kind of do this naturally.
Right.
They watch movies and they pick up new words and phrases.
Absolutely.
But we're gonna kind of like break it down and
unpack it.
Yeah, unpack it and see why this is such an effective method.
Yeah, I love that.
So
you sent over some really cool articles
Yes.
about this, and I think what's really fascinating about movies is that they expose you to language so organically. You know, you're not sitting there with a textbook and a dictionary. You're just enjoying a story.
Yeah.
And in the process, you're picking up on these natural rhythms, everyday expression, slang you might not encounter.
Right. In a more formal setting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like learning by osmosis almost.
Right. So you're saying like instead of kind of like rote memorization, you're actually like seeing how people speak.
You're observing it.
And picking up on
in its natural habitat, right?
Yeah.
So it's not this sterile kind of like, this is how you should speak. This is proper grammar you're seeing. Like, oh, this is how people actually use language in the real world.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And I think, one of the articles that we were looking at called it vocabulary goldmine.
I love that phrase.
Yeah.
Vocabulary goldmine, because I think it's so true.
Yeah. And it's not even just like individual words.
Yeah.
It's like
it's phrases.
It's like understanding
it's idioms.
the nuance.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, how do you actually use this word in a sentence?
Right. So can you give us like a specific example of that?
Yeah, sure.
How does seeing a word in a movie like
help you understand it better than just like reading it in the dictionary?
Let's take the phrase break a leg, for example.
Okay.
If you look up break a leg in a dictionary, it's going to tell you about fracturing a bone.
Right.
But if you're watching a movie and you see actors backstage and break a leg to each other, you suddenly understand, oh, it means good luck.
Right.
It's this weird kind of counterintuitive thing.
Right.
But the scene gives you the context.
Exactly.
To understand the meaning.
Yeah, that's a really good example.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people struggle with idioms. You see the words.
Right.
You're like, I know what those words mean.
Yeah.
But
separately, but together.
But together. They
make no sense.
Make no sense.
All right.
Right. And so seeing it in a movie.
Seeing it in action.
Yes. Helps you kind of bridge.
Decodes it.
That gap.
Yeah. It decodes that secret language.
Yeah, that's correct.
Of everyday conversation.
And I think another thing that's really cool about movies is that
they're visual. Yes.
You're not just like hearing the words, you're seeing
exactly.
You're seeing the body language.
Yes, you're seeing the emotions.
So it really helps you like
understand
the full context.
It's full context. Yes.
And I think that's something that traditional language learning methods sometimes miss.
Yeah.
They focus so much on the grammar, the vocabulary, but they forget that language is also about communication.
Right. It's about conveying meaning.
Conveying a feeling.
Yes.
Yeah. And movies do that really well.
Yes. And to your point earlier about different learning styles, I think that's where movies really shine because, some people are very visual learners. Some people are more auditory learners.
And movies combine
all of it.
Yeah.
So it really caters to a wider range of learners.
That's a great point.
And, one of the articles even mentioned how movies can help with your pronunciation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you're watching actors.
Right.
You're seeing how they move their mouths.
Yeah.
You're picking up on these subtle cues like intonation.
Yeah, intonation.
Stress patterns. Yeah, and that's something that's really hard to get.
Right.
From a textbook.
Right. Yeah, you can't.
You can read the phonetic transcription, but it's not the same as hearing it and seeing it.
Yeah, and I think you made a great point earlier about kind of like
what was it?
The osmosis.
Oh yeah, the learning by osmosis.
Yeah. And I think sometimes you don't even realize you're learning.
Exactly.
You're just like enjoying the movie.
They're engrossed in the story.
And then like later on, you're like, oh.
You use a word.
I know the word.
Or a phrase.
I know that phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, where did I pick that up?
Yeah. Have you had any personal experiences where you've learned something from a movie?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many examples.
Yeah.
But one that comes to mind is from the movie Casablanca.
Okay.
You know, the classic film with Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah.
And there's this scene where he says this line.
Okay.
Here's looking at you, kid.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple phrase.
Right.
But the way he delivers it with this mix of tenderness and world weariness.
Right.
It just stayed with me. And I find myself using it sometimes in my own life.
That's so cool.
I know, right?
And it's like, it really does show you how movies are.
Yeah.
More than just entertainment.
Yeah, they're like these little cultural capsules.
Yeah.
Packed with language and meaning.
Exactly. And you're right.
Yeah.
It is like this osmosis thing where you're not even like trying and you're learning, but you're absorbing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the articles even suggested, you know, if you really want to focus on the language, watch movies with subtitles.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, because then you can really see the words.
You can pause.
You can pause it. You can rewind. Yeah. You can look up words you don't know.
That's great.
It's like having a built-in language tutor.
Yeah.
Right there on your screen.
Yeah. So, I mean, to kind of sum up, I think what we're saying here is that learning with movies is about
immersion.
Yeah.
It's about soaking up the language in a natural, engaging way. Right. And it's about kind of like
exposing yourself
to all those things that you wouldn't necessarily get in a textbook.
Yes, the idioms, the slang, the cultural references.
Yeah.
Think about like different film genres.
Oh,
each genre.
That's a good point.
Has its own kind of language landscape.
Like its own little dialect.
It's almost like a dialect, yeah. So you can tailor your learning to your interests.
Yeah.
If you're into action movies, you're going to learn a certain type of vocabulary.
And
if you're into romantic comedies.
And way of speaking.
Yes, you're going to learn a different way of speaking.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's really about making it fun.
Yeah.
And enjoyable.
Yeah, because I think that's the key takeaway here.
Yeah.
Is that learning English shouldn't be a chore.
It shouldn't be.
It should be fun.
A chore.
Yeah. And I
think a better way.
Movies are a great way
to do that.
Than through movies, right?
Yeah.
It's entertaining.
Absolutely.
So
it's engaging.
So so if anyone out there is like, I want to try this.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good way to start.
Well, I would say pick a film you love.
Okay.
Maybe one you've already seen.
Okay.
And watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, watch it with a focus on the language.
With fresh ears.
Yeah, with fresh ears, with fresh eyes.
Yeah, and like really pay attention.
Pay attention to the dialogue.
Yeah.
What phrases stand out to you?
Yeah.
Are there any words you haven't heard before?
Are there any words you want to like steal?
Steal those words.
Yeah.
Add them to your vocabulary.
It's like turning your room into a language lab.
Your own personal language lab.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
And you know what? I think you'll be surprised.
I think you'll be amazed.
Yeah, by how much you pick up.
By how much you learn.
Just by being a little more mindful.
A little more mindful. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think we
successfully
navigated this deep dive
into the world of movies
and language learning.
It's
been a pleasure. A really fun conversation.
As always.
Yeah. And to all of our listeners out there.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening to the Speak Smart podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
For another
deep dive.
Deep dive.
Bye.
Bye. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video. Thanks.